My name's Rendi and I'm currently working on a very unique build being an Ironman defense pier. I know I said that I would be attempting the fight caves in the next video, but here we are, not attempting the fight caves. Well, I am attempting the fight caves during the time of this edit, but I wasn't back then. If I survive, we're looking at maybe another week till that's completed. Yeah, another week. I've already been in there for 3 weeks, and let me just tell you, this is awful. I'm going to have to go ahead and edit that video afterwards, which might take another week or two as well. So be prepared. If that is a success, that's the next video, as I have no other content lined up. But before I went into the fight caves, I took a couple 100-hour break, as you may call it, and I went ahead and looked at the future of this account and did some testing as to what's going to be next after the fight caves. Originally, the fight caves was the end goal for this series, but I want to take it a bit further and just make this as much of a completionist series for an Ironman defense pier as I can. So I'm going to be testing some methods I came up with and theories, like always, in order to see how we're going to take on some challenges down the road, as well as just lay out a roadmap of what's next after the fight caves. And we're going to be getting into some of that today during that 200-hour break I mentioned of footage that this video is. So if you're new here, we're making what I call a trophy account. A very unique account that has items at specific stats that no one else can really obtain, or less than a handful of players. And most of these items I'm going to be able to wear, and that's why this account is a defense pier. It's a low combat build with high defense, so it can wield all kinds of armors, and it's an Ironman, which means I somehow have to get all of these armors and items myself, to a degree. We're also completing quests that shouldn't be able to be completed on accounts such as these, as well as just getting every possible task done with low combat stats. And as I mentioned earlier, this includes the fight cave and Jad for the fire cave. Now, although this episode is sort of a breather, don't mistake it for one. There's going to be a lot of shenanigans in today's video and methods that no one else has ever used in the game, because once again we're on such a unique and specific account, we have to utilize the most crazy things on our build. Before we get into the shenanigans of today's episode and the future of this build, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor for today's video, World Anvil. World Anvil is a world building, writing, and game mastering desktop software with 25 world building article templates. It's amazing for creative wiki style presentations of your world and your writing. There's amazing functionality for game masters, for players, and for writers. There's 45 plus supported systems including D&D 5e, or create your own system. World Anvil provides solutions to game masters to plan, play, and present their adventures and campaigns. And for players, there's most extensive character management you can find as well, such as character sheets, journals, inventory management, and spellbooks. For writers, there's all the best tools to help you write, organize, and even present and publish rich settings with complex characters. Write, world build, and manage your story all in one single platform. So what are you waiting for? Go to worldanvil.com or use my link in the description below and download this amazing software to help create and manage the best game you can. So what's in store for the remaining future of this account and for the series? Well, you already know this, but I'm planning to get a fire cape as we speak. I've been in there for 3 weeks, and let me tell you, a little bit of a spoiler here, this fire cape is by far the worst task I've ever taken on in terms of just stress and length of time, as well as mechanically figuring out every wave. I've put an account through every wave multiple times for about 10 to 20 hours on mains, trying to figure out what I'm going to be doing on this account. Now, this is even more difficult than the level 3 fire cape because of 2 things. One, I have to get up close and personal because I won't have a ring of suffering and a bunch of recoils for most waves. So I'm going to be having to stab these NPCs in a melee zone, which means I'm going to have to reroute these waves a way I've never done before. As well, I'm going to have to go ahead and not be using as many purple sweets because I only have a limited amount from medium clues I've done on this account, being around 700. And lastly, I'm going to be having to poke NPCs with my 1 attack and 1 strength over and over again, sometimes re-poisoning them and spending hours, sometimes re-logging on these waves. This is taking forever. It is extremely frustrating. I've done level 3 fire capes, I've done level 50 something infernos, and by far this is the worst task yet. That's why we're kind of putting in a filler video, because it's been almost a month and I'm sorry I don't have much content besides, well, I guess these 200 hours of footage I recorded here. So after the fire cape, what is the roadmap? Because that's what this video is really focusing on. Well, there's a lot of things I want to get done on this account. For one, we've already talked about Barrows. I did a few runs in episode 9. Unfortunately got no loot, but we had sort of a method, an old method. But is there possibly a new method now with death spawning since I lost hardcore status, on purpose of course, in the last episode? Well, I think there will be, and we'll get into that later, and we're going to be using some very specific food and very unique death spawning mechanics in order to get possibly 5 Torag kills per hour, which on average we're looking at around 1,000 kills for full Torag set. Eventually I might take on more Barrows brothers and get more Barrows gear just for the hell of it, but looking at Torags alone on average we're estimating about 220 hours to get the full set that I can wield. Not including the hammers because I can't wield those, but I probably will likely get those along the way and they'll just sit in my bank forever. I'm also going to be looking at Theater of Blood today, and that's because I want the full Justiciar set as well as the pet. And no, I don't want the transmog pets because those are ugly, just the normal little Zik. But I'm going to be looking into possibly enhanced methods for purples, so I don't have to spend 250 plus hours and over 10 bill on TOB boosts, because obviously with my limited stats, I'm not going to be able to take on TOB alone or even really contribute much to the team. But being the only Ironman defense player with 1 prayer and access to Moritania, I feel like I'm obligated to take on TOB and complete the collection log, or at least complete the items that I can use and wield. If my new enhanced theory for getting purples works, we're looking at maybe only a 50-hour grind for full Justiciar, a lot more for the pet, but I don't know, that's not as important to me. If this doesn't work, we're looking at around 250 hours for the full set and the pet. So I would get the pet either way, and honestly a longer grind like that isn't terrible. The worst part is the 10 bill plus requirement I would be paying for boost. Speaking of boost, I also need combat achievements, and I'm going to be getting a lot of these at Chambers of Xeric, and once again this account is pretty much useless there, so boosts are going to be necessary to get those points for the combat achievements. I want to get the hard tier done, which is going to be possible by boosting the Theater of Blood task along with the Chambers of Xeric's task, and that's going to be allowing me the hard tier reward of +3 pest control points per games, and I could possibly use this in order to double my XP per hour at pest control and use mains to possibly take on 90 to 100k XP per hour now that I'm 40 combat and can use the novice boat to go for 99 defense and 99 hit points on this account. Yes, I do want to max out my hit points and defense, even though it ups my combat a little bit. 50 combat is clean, and having both of those at 99 is going to look amazing. I know I probably should have gotten these stats before I went into the fight capes for the fire cape, but I was too eager. And that hit points cape, looking back at it already, really would have helped where I'm at right now. Unfortunately, we're not patient, so we're going to do that at a later date, and we're going to do it with hopefully pest control instead of Soul Wars, because also I just absolutely despise Soul Wars and the duo method for that. But I will eventually possibly be going there for the pet, and that's because another step in the future of this account is I want to be green logging what I can in the collection log. And doing that on an account such as this will be a little bit interesting, and I'll be starting these tasks today with a recent release being Forestry, not only because it's new, but also because I realized I might possibly be the only 1 attack and 1 strength Ironman with even the possibility of getting a Beaver Transmog and Forestry outfit. That's because in the last episode you saw I was able to complete Firminic Trials without the reward, and this allowed me access to Niatsnad Island, which therefore allows me to chop Arctic Pine logs, something that all Ironmen need to do when going for the Forestry outfit or for the Beaver Transmog, as the rewards require noted Arctic Pine logs to be handed in for those 2 specific things. So I'm going to be the only 1 attack, 1 strength Ironman now with a Beaver Transmog, which I used to hate this pet when I got it. My god, come on. I got another Beaver. I somehow got it early, and Beaver is the only pet I've ever gotten, which is kind of a disappointment, but now I can make it into something unique here and be the only person to be able to use an Arctic Pine log on this thing and make it a white Beaver, as well as just get the transmog in the first place. So yeah, I'm going to be trying to complete and green log the entire Forestry collection log today, and I'm going to be going for all kinds of completionist tasks in the future on this account, such as quest points, which I believe I'll almost barely be able to hit 150 for a max block task of 3 when going for Slayer. And yes, that's even with all these impossible quests and quest lines I've unlocked that my account shouldn't even have had access to. I don't know if I'll hit 150, but it'll be close with new releases and new quests coming out. As well, I'll be going for possibly more combat achievements, although I don't think I'll ever be able to hit the elite combat achievements because that's, from what I calculated, even if I do the most ridiculous tasks on my own, about 200 points away, which is around 40 average tasks. Unless they come out with a lot more of these, I don't think elite's ever going to be a possibility on this account. Unless this poll actually gets pulled as it was intended to and makes the DFS Defense XP on NPCs instead of Magic XP. Now apparently Magic XP was a bug, they had to throw it into the game because they didn't know how to make Dragonfire apply to NPCs, so they rolled it off Magic instead of Defense. Now Defense has already rolled off the DFS on other players, but not NPCs for that reason, and finally they're pulling to fix this about 17 years later, which could be huge for the account. I could complete Beneath Cursed Sands and get into Tombs of Damascus because the bosses currently in that quest are actually immune to everything. And with access to that new raid, I could get a lot more points and possibly barely eke out the elite combat achievements. I could also possibly kill Skatizo with the emblems in my bank, even though all these tasks would be super difficult to complete because we're waiting 2 minutes for each Dragonfire shield spec and we're going to have to tank damage for that length of time to possibly hit between a 0 and a 25. I don't know if it's going to make this quest possible even, but it's going to make it very interesting to say the least, along with Skatizo and maybe even some Hespori kills. And once again, that's because all of these bosses I just mentioned are immune to recoils, venom, poison, vengeance, everything. So DFS spec would allow us to overcome those bosses, possibly. So look out for that poll. They said they forgot to add it into the most recent one, even though it was supposed to be there. And hopefully they didn't just remove it permanently, but if you want to vote for that, you can. If not, I'm not going to influence you either way, but it would be really cool for this account. Okay, so we're also becoming completionists and going for as many tasks as possible. And I'm going to be using all kinds of weird methods to kill NPCs, to go about these tasks, and to just go about everyday life on this account as I already am. A lot of this is going to involve needing help from other people, such as possibly yourselves, and I do plan on streaming right here on YouTube and on Kick as well in just a few weeks, hopefully after I get that Fight Cave video out. We're going to be having a more interactive experience here, and there's going to be a lot of tasks you all can help me with. You can be my personal slave. Just kidding. Do as you please, but I will be streaming a lot of this content later on, and there will be a lot more casual videos coming out after the Fight Cave video. Lastly, as a completionist and looking towards a completionist future for this account, along with streaming, completing combat achievements, quests, everything I can get done on the collection log, I also want to focus a little bit on skilling. Eventually I do want to max all the skills I can on this account, and that includes Slayer, probably very last, but more soonish. I want to go for Slayer at around 80 for Dragon Boots from Spiritual Mages. Yes, Dragon Boots have the same strength bonus as my current Manacles, but they have some extra defense bonus and they look a lot better and pair better with all the armor I'll be using on this account. Also, because I want to get as many things as I can wield in this account that seem utterly impossible, because Slayer is going to be like 5k XP per hour on this account, and possibly I can do some more clues, get some more collection log slots through those, and eventually do some hard clues, get an ornament kit to throw on the top of those Dragon Boots, and make them look even more superior for my build. Anyways, let's get further into the episode and let's talk about the specific goals that we're going to be getting into today and showcasing some of the methods I've designed for some of these goals. Okay, so back on episode 10, we found a way to actually take on Barrows, and that was simply by drinking brews as fast as possible with recoil rings and trying to hit a 1 for the true damage in under 10 minutes before the Barrows brothers despawned. We also figured out that Torags was the easiest to kill with this method and the only one I really wanted to kill because he had the best defensive gear. The only problem with this method? Well, I would have to gather tons of brews through farming and making the brews, which I do have the herb lore for, but it just takes so long to gather as many brews as necessary, as one singular kill is like an entire inventory of brews. And likely, if we want the full set of Torags, we're going to be looking at over 1,000 kill count here. So that's, I don't know, 28,000 brews. That would take me at least 3 years to make that many. There was one way we looked into that could possibly get around this, which was baskets of strawberries. But once again, to get a full inventory of strawberries and baskets farmed would take several cycles of farm runs and would take a long time just for a singular KC at Barrows. So now that we're an Ironman and no longer a hardcore Ironman, I decided to look into death piling and gathering food as fast as possible to put in that death pile, and therefore I could just juggle food and recoil this Torag boss. This is all possible because whenever you die remotely, everything goes into your gravestone as long as you set up that gravestone in the proper place, which is what I did inside the Torag dungeon. Now I'm going to be dying remotely with full inventories of food, and the food I would be using would be pineapple pizzas, which I gathered from paying a butler and having people stand in my house to roughly get around 1,000 pineapple pizzas per hour. The cap for death piling food I believe is between 500 and 600 items, so I would not want to death pile too much food anyways, because after an hour this would disappear off the ground. So I had to find a kind of even number that would allow me to actually cycle through as many kills in an hour as possible, as well as not waste food disappearing on the floor from despawn timers. I found this sweet spot for pizzas to be around 200. This allowed for me 5 kills an hour at Torags, and that would be about 40 pizzas per kill. That's a lot of pizza. 40 pizzas per kill, we're looking at 1,000 kills, that's 40,000 pizzas. Otherwise known as over 40 hours of just gathering the food necessary to roll average RNG to get the Torag set I want on this account. That's not optimal. I don't want to be spending 40 hours just gathering the food to do this method. So I looked into other possible routes for food. That was, of course, after testing the method and getting a few kills with these pizzas, which was fun, but once again, it's not going to last as I need to find something a bit quicker that's going to drop to the floor that I can use and eat for rapid succession kills of Torag. Shops was the most obvious answer because I can buy things out of shops, usually relatively quickly, but a shared shop would be even more amazing as I could buy the food on a main at the Grand Exchange, then sell the stock to the shop and rebuy it off the Ironman, cycling through the actual inventory quicker than if I were to hop worlds. I found a shop that met all of these needs, and ironically, this shop was located in Jatizo, which was the place that you could only get to if you've completed Firminic Trials, which once again happened last episode, and I was able to do this without the XP, which means because I was able to complete that quest, we now have access to the best food source in the game, and that is lobsters. This shop in Jatizo is perfect because it's right next to the bank. As well, I can use my main here, and it's a shared shop, one of the very few food shared shops in the game, along with the one at the top of the Grand Tree. But this one is closer to the bank, and they provide lobsters. They have a stock of 10 lobsters, which is actually a pretty high number, so I don't have to be stocking, 1 lobster at a time on my main. I can hit it at 10. If I do overstock this shop though, I'm gonna have to buy back the lobster on my main until it hits 10 or lower before I can buy it on my Ironman. Once again, this just halves the time versus me having to hop worlds every 10 lobsters. So we're going to be stockpiling lobsters in the shop through our main and buying them 10 at a time through the Ironman and running back and forth between the bank. Another perk of the shop is they sell them relatively cheap at just over 100 GP per lobster, which is like half the value of what it is on the Grand Exchange. So I have the cash pile to actually do this and buy upwards of 100,000 lobsters or more. Now for the drop rate, I'm only going to need about 80,000 lobsters, but I wanted an even number that looks beautiful in the bank. So my goal right now is going to be buying 100,000 lobsters. I'm able to buy 5,000 lobsters per hour and bank them. So we're looking at a 20-hour goal for over 100,000 lobsters, which should put us well over the average drop rate that we'll be needing to actually kill Torag. Now we do need almost double the amount of lobsters as we need pineapple pizzas, but because we're able to gather this supply so much quicker than pineapple pizzas through a player-owned house, this is well worth it. And once again, it comes in clutch that I just somehow managed to do Firminic Trials and actually have access to this island on this account now. So here we are, 20 hours later, roughly, probably a little bit more. I was kind of lazy doing this, but we have been clicking non-stop, buying lobsters and running to the bank, and we now have over 100,000 lobsters gathered. This was a grind in itself. This took me about 3 days to gather this many lobsters of non-stop buying items from a shop. But now we have the perfect amount banked, hopefully to get the full Torag set from Barrows. I went back to Barrows and got a few kills just as a test run, but we're going to put this method in the backlog for now, as once again, we're going to be going for fight caves soon, and Barrows isn't my main goal at this time. I just wanted to see what method we're going to be using to take on that task when the time comes. So the sweet spot for lobsters is actually going to be around 330. This allows for me 5 kills an hour and is the perfect amount to get 5 kills. Sometimes I have like 10 to 15 extra, but you know, you never know what's going to happen. You don't know what Torag's going to hit. He could be massacring me during each of these, but I'm basically just going to be juggling lobsters off the ground within an hour before they disappear and using my recoils. Recoils will be another issue. I'm running out of recoils. Eventually I'm going to have to maybe farm magpies for some more, but we'll look into that later down the road. I also had to find a way to optimally death pile lobsters as quickly as possible. I did this by using my farming cape, using the bank at the farming guild, then heading over with the Chronicle and a rock cake to the Dark Wizards, which are aggressive to my account still because I'm such low combat, and then dying to these because they're using magic and I have armor, so I'm easily able to die to the Dark Wizards here. So I go to Torax first, get the gravestone there, then I go to farming guild, death pile about 13 times at Dark Wizards, and then I have the 320 lobsters at the gravestone that I can use to juggle off the floor. And so I went about this task and I decided to go ahead and go for drop rate for at least one Torag piece, which is 1 in 196 through this method. I got 196 kill count at Barrows, but unfortunately no piece of Torags was found, and once again, as always, I never get lucky on anything. I at least hit the drop rate, it seems, on this account, but I'm sure our luck will catch up to us and we'll get those Barrows pieces soon. There was one more issue I wanted to address for the future plans of actually completing Barrows. Since I'm going to be spending over likely 200 hours here at Torags, I want to get the best gear I can for this. And once again, I'm going to have Fire Cape when I come back here, so that's going to be great because that's more offensive bonus, more strength bonus. As well though, I want to wield my DFS, and I want to do that possibly with a hand joint. I have a Swift Blade, but that's stab bonus. Torag is weak to crush, and I really want to get a ham joint for this long grind as well. It's just another one of those completionist goals I was talking about that I want to get done on this account. Plus I have a Dwarven helmet which has +5 crush bonus, which is a little bit better than the +4 stab bonus from the fighter hat. So I'm going to optimize my crush bonus, and I'm also going to uncharge my DFS to lower the defense bonus on that, and possibly I can whack 2s without wasting super strength potions every single time I'm down here, and it's going to be much easier for my account to get the initial hit off on Torags. Therefore, I'm going to go on a quick, easy clue grind, and when I say quick, I mean like I'm going to spend 60 hours as I'm completing 5 easy clues an hour, and I'm going to be trying to hit 300 easy clue completions today. I'm doing this through thieving hand members. This is a 1 in 50 chance of pulling an easy clue. Now there's about 6 steps on these easy clues I can't do, such as wielding oak short bows, oak long bows, steel maces, steel equipment, even a mithril pickaxe. I have 1 attack and 1 range, so unfortunately I can't do a lot of equipment clue steps even on these small easy clues. But I can get a lot more done than medium clues, and this is a lot quicker than medium clues. So we're looking at about 60 hours to pace us to 300 clues. If I don't get the ham joint by then, I'm going to put a pause on this goal, and we're going to see if we can get that by 500 easy clues, which is going to be the large spade anyway, which is a collection log slot, and we're going to be picking up collection log slots on the way as well through these easy clues and just getting a lot of the cosmetics and uniques. Now the ham joint itself, I believe, is around a 1 in 480 chance of pulling, so likely I won't get this in 300 clues, but you know, maybe we'll get lucky. Alright, this is the part of the video you've all been waiting for, the epic easy clue collection log montage. Enjoy this as much as I did. Actually, that's pretty big. 1 in 6k chance, I believe, for that one. We got pretty lucky there. Oh wow, flared trousers. Actually do need those for master clue step, and they make you dance, and they're the highest value easy clue item, and they make you dance. Another one. Holy smokes. I might have lied. I think this might be worth more than the flared trousers. This gives defense bonus as well as a skull. It's the same as my skill cape in terms of defense bonus. So it's a pretty cool cosmetic as well as a very rare item from Easy Clues. Surprised I got this one this early. Around 40 hours into the Easy Clue grind, we're 2/3 through with our goal. Unfortunately, still no ham joint. 10 sweets, it's going to be good for Jad. Another one. Okay, no, we were not lucky. I've spent 60 hours doing Easy Clues. I'm going to go to 500 at least now, probably anyways. Even if I get the ham joint at 301, because I want that spade now, we're over halfway there. And we'll spend probably at least another 40 hours to get that, probably 50. I don't even know, I can't do math. But you know what I'm saying. We're going to be spending a lot of time just doing Easy Clues because it's easy collection log slots as well, and I want that ham joint for Barrows. So I'll come back to this at another point in time. Not in today's episode because we've got to move on to bigger and better things. Alright, so Theater of Blood. I've never been in Theater of Blood besides going through the first 2 rooms for a few stamina potions in the past. I pretty much know nothing when it comes to this area of the game. But of course, like any other person exploring new content, I decided to read up on the wiki. And the first thing I noticed was the way the rewards seemed to work. It was very odd. It said there's a 1 in 9 chance on a deathless run that the purple spawns at the end of the actual raid. And this got me thinking, what if I'm the only person left in the raid? The purple usually goes to the person with the most points or with MVP, but if there's no one with any points left and I'm the only MVP left, what does that mean? Wouldn't I be the only one possibly to get the 1 in 9 chance of the purple? Well, I don't know. I went and talked to some TOB experts like Jinami and others, and most of them said they weren't for sure about this. I theorized a way to possibly be the only one left in the raid without anyone dying, which was through the use of teleport crystals. I wanted a team that would teleport out with these crystals right as the death animation of Verzik appeared, which is a very long death animation, so between the time that Verzik dies and between the time the throne room opens for the chest, there's quite a large gap of time, and the teleport animation is much shorter than the death animation. And a lot of expert tobbers were not sure. No one had ever seemed to test this before, or at least enough to definitely for sure say it does or does not work. Now, Mod Kieran a long time ago put out this chart for points in Theater of Blood. I really wouldn't need any points at all to roll a purple if this method worked, and I could just lay back in the back of all the rooms and let the other portion of the team do the work for me, as they were to teleport out on the final boss's death animation. Technically, if I'm just going for the purple roll, I won't need any points at all, but the question was, is it truly as the wiki worded it a 1 in 9 chance if no deaths are apparent inside the raid, or is it based on a collaborative point system amongst all the players? Merrick asked this question years ago, and I even DM'd him about this, and he never got a response, and himself, he didn't know. So I'm gonna go test it and find out what happens. But the problem was I couldn't find anyone to test it with. I mean, I went through almost every means of TOB connection I could find, and no one wanted to teleport out on the last room because that totally nuked their chances of getting a purple chest themselves or any rewards. I would be the one benefiting all the way throughout this, and they'd be wasting all of their precious time. I even offered to pay them a lot of money, and most people turned me down. Luckily though, I found some boosters who are willing to do this, and for a fair and reasonable price. Other boosters weren't even willing to take this on, and not because they thought it was impossible or that it wouldn't work, but because simply they wanted rewards themselves, and that makes sense. But shout out to the people who didn't care, and that was Iron Gear. Iron Gear is a Discord and community, and they have all kinds of events as well as a giveaway going on right now that's going to be going through the middle of August, which is a 10 times 50% mega scale giveaway, and that's going to be free boost for purples you might want on your Ironman or any other account. For me, I'm going to have to boost purples, going to have to boost combat achievements, and all kinds of tasks. These guys are going to be helping me do that all along the way, whether it be in today's video, or the next video, or the video after that. They've just been a great help already throughout the progress of this account, and without them, literally I cannot do any of this. So big shout out to them. Their community is massive, and whether you're just looking for an Ironman community to be a part of, or you're looking for boosts that are Jagex compliant, go ahead and use the link down in the description below for their Discord, and you can check them out there. But yeah, these guys were amazing. They sat with me for a few days here, and were timing their teleports perfectly with the final boss room of Verzik. By the way, the final boss room of Verzik, I found a way to stall going into it with a stackable interface, so I didn't have to get a death counter and lower my chances a little bit from the 1 in 9. I was able to just sit there in a safe area while they killed Verzik, like every other room inside this theater of blood. I did go into the rewards room with only having 1 chest, so it looked like this method was somewhat working, and hopefully I would only get that 1 in 9 chance rolling to my account since they were all out of the raiding party. But after 30 KC and it being a 1 in 9 chance, this never happened, so I was just super unlucky and never rolled a purple on 3 times drop rate. Or the more common possibility was that this didn't work and the TOB actually took into account your individual points when rolling for the purple, even if there was no other person in the party with you. I originally thought this might work as well because if I went to the scoreboard I could see that I was the MVP of the raid, so the MVP technically transferred to my account, and the MVP is the one who usually gets that 1 in 9 chance of the purple. But if I had no amount of decent points here, it basically just made me just as susceptible to getting a purple as if I were on a normal raid, and that was a very low possibility because I sat out of almost every room inside of every single one of these raids to test this theory of if I did somehow manage to get a purple, unless I was just super unlucky. I'm going to go with the fact that this did not work, and we're going to have to find a way to actually complete each room with at least the participation points. This would put me at around 11 points per TOB completion, 12 without a Verzik death, and this would allow me to hit the 1 in 500 chance rate for the little Zik pet with 10 points as the maximum threshold. As well, this would be around a 1 in 450 to 1 in 500 drop rate of just this year, so we're looking at around 500 raid TOB KC that will need boosted in the future, since I believe my original idea did not work here, and that's going to be probably close to around 10 bill. So if you ever want to help me out with that, hit me up on Discord. My Discord tag is Rendimento, so yeah, just putting that out there. The only benefit to now having to do the long method of traditionally participating in every single room is I have to find unique ways to actually participate in these rooms and survive these rooms without prayer. Possibly standing in Nilo's body and moving it towards the gate as an example, possibly figuring out the thresholds of when I can enter the rooms, because some rooms you can enter late like Bloat after the first cycle and still get the participation points. Hell, maybe I could even enter Soda's Egg after the last teleport and just sit in the back of the room without having to run the maze and getting hit by him at the end before running back once again. It just depends what's the thresholds for HP on these bosses that actually is participation point inducing. We don't know this, it was never made public, and I'll have to test this 1 room at a time by going to the chest at the end and seeing if I pull a cabbage. So yeah, it will be a lot more entertaining to watch me trying to survive every TOB encounter. As well, it will give me a chance of getting the pet at 1 in 500 around the same rate that I should be getting just this year at. So we'll be fulfilling the pet goal as well as the just this year goal, hopefully all around the same KC. And once again, I plan on streaming this all hopefully around in a month from now after my fire kit video is released, if I complete it, of course. So we're leaving Theater of Blood here for now, and we'll come back to it with that 500 KC, I don't know when, in at least a month. Combat achievements. I briefly went over why I want these. The main reason is for pest control and the hard tier rewards of the combat achievements for the extra 3 points. That would double my points from the novice boat and possibly allow me to use pest control instead of the Dolo method at Soul Wars for maxing my account's defense and HP, because I really hate Soul Wars. Eventually I might go back to Soul Wars for the pet, because once again we're now a completionist and we're trying to get collection log slots as well as pets, of course, on this account. But for XP, I really don't want to be focusing my gains at Soul Wars. I want an alternative method that I can possibly use other people with at pest control, just rushing those barriers and those shields and getting the games done as quick as possible with double the points on the novice boat. I also just want to complete as many combat achievements as I can, and I'll be going for the really difficult ones, the ones that are seemingly impossible, such as corp kills and more, at a much later date, because why not? Once again, we're a completionist now, so we're going to try and just do everything. As well, there's that small slim chance that I can defeat Beneath Cursed Sands, go to TOA, and get enough points for elite tier of combat achievements if they do make the adjustment to that Dragon Fire Shield, and of course if you all vote yes for that poll, which someday will come out. So once again, I utilized the boys over at Iron Gear to get me some of the Cox combat achievements done. That is once again literally impossible for my account to achieve on its own, and this took some time, but we got pretty much everything done except for some of the combat achievement tasks that involve Guardians, Ice Demons, and Lizardmen Shamans. Those are a little bit more complicated, and I think I'll use my own alts to figure out a method to actually complete those. One is the Guardians. The Guardians are immune to Vengeance and every other form of recoil, so I'm not quite sure how I'll defeat them. Another one was the Ice Demon, which I'm going to possibly have to use Vengeance and other things to get the kill credit without the range protect on, and maybe Red X in its body to then not get hit ever by this demon. That's another one of the combat achievements. I don't know, I'm going to figure out a method for some of the harder CAs at a later date, but I decided to just go ahead and boost and get the ones out of the way that I can't complete myself today. So I was able to complete a lot of these combat achievements inside the Chambers of Xeric, although some were impossible, such as duo speedruns, as well as trio inside of challenge mode, and of course solo, because there's no way in hell I'm going to get the speed time on an account with 1 attack and 1 strength. I did though manage to try and help with some of these speedrun goals and utilize myself in as many rooms as I could. Another unfortunate part about this experience is, although I got 9 KC in total from the Chambers of Xeric, I did not get a stone tablet, which is a 1 in 10 drop rate from the final chest, which I kinda wanted to add to my mounted Xeric's talisman on the wall for that extra teleport. But I also did not complete the kill count combat achievements, so one day we're gonna have to come back here for some more CMs and normal completions to hit that 150 kill count and possibly get even more points towards my combat achievement. So I had some combat achievements already successfully completed, and on top of this, with the Cox CAs that Iron Gear boosted me through, I was able to get to the medium tier completion of combat achievements, and I got a lamp which got me 61 Slayer.
Success!
But for now, medium's not going to be really anything that special. I'm waiting for hard, and I think we're going to go do some more boost inside Theater of Blood in a later episode, which should get me to hard just barely without having to do the extremely complex combat achievements, but I still will do those once again at a later date. Forestry. I originally thought this was going to be dumb, and it honestly was. The XP was ridiculous, at least during the first week. I did it right as it came out, but I found out I had to do it because now I would be the only Ironman defense peer with Forestry outfit and Beaver, or at least Beaver. I don't know, there might be some that slipped through the cracks with the Forestry outfit, who knows. But that's once again because, ironically, the quest we did in the last episode for Mnemonic Trials, which we managed to avoid XP from, was required to get the Arctic Pine logs, and another utilized thing in today's episode, not just the lobsters from earlier, but now also because we need those logs to get the outfit in order to redeem it along with some bark, and in order to get the Beaver transmog along with even more bark. So here we are. Luckily I was already 86 woodcutting, but I had no logs in the bank. Therefore I had to chop thousands of every type of log in order to get the required logs just to turn in for all the rewards. I wanted to green log this as one of my very few green log collection logs so far on this account, and that's because, well, it was relaxing, to be honest with you, and it wasn't that stressful, and I needed a de-stressor before I went inside the fight caves. This was in fact the last task I did right before I finally entered the fight caves. Little did I know though, it would take me 40 hours and about a week to complete this and get all the animal bark necessary to redeem all the rewards, along with all of each individual tiers of logs, because I have no other source of gathering these logs other than chopping the logs themselves, which some were very slow. Redwoods. I managed to slowly fill the collection log, redeeming rewards. I didn't quite have enough bark once I had all the logs, so eventually I joined Bodhi CC and ran around like a maniac inside of Sears Village with some stamina potions in order to chop roots and do other events that gathered more bark for the final completed outfit and all of the collection log filled. So yes, we finally had it, the outfit that looked like Tingle from Zelda, and the white beaver. The pet I once hated now became my best friend, as it was the rarest pet for my build in the game. I got some completionist tasks out of the way besides Forestry in this episode. I did want quest points, but I wanted to save some quest completions for future possibilities for now. I do plan to get 100 quest points soon because some quests I know are absolutely useless in the grand scheme of things, and I can finish them right away. One of these was the quest Olaf's Quest, and I could do this because I finished Fermi Trials once again without rewards in the last episode, which was a requirement for Olaf's Quest. So yeah, not to brag here, but I would be the first defense peer in the game with this quest done as well. Also, Olaf's Quest gave me a free 10,000 defense XP, so what's not to like about this quest, and why not get it out of the way? This quest wasn't too bad at all, and the boss wasn't immune to poison as the wiki said it was, the NPCs weren't either, that I had to kill for certain items, and I just brute forced it entirely and killed everything first try. I also got a lot of elite clues doing the tasks in today's video, such as from Barrows chest, from Theater of Blood chest, and even from trees inside of Forestry, through those birds' nests they drop, and from even more sources. I don't know, I lost count. Anyways, I attempted to do so many of these elite clues. One I even could take all the way to step 6, but the last step just wasn't possible and I had to drop it. So we're still at 0 elite clues. But while doing these elite clues, I had a thought. I was recoiling and poisoning the Bandosian guards, and I looked at their loot table. There's a 1 in 1 million chance that I can get Bando's boots. And since I'm a defense peer, technically these would be my best in slot ever possible as an Ironman. Now, I could actually go back and do a lower tier clue step that summons an NPC to resummon the Bandosian guard over and over again, but to kill 1 million of these things with sheerly poison and recoils, that would probably take me around 100,000 hours, which would therefore be the rest of my life, unless I got extremely lucky here. Nope, not lucky today. And no, I cannot get Bando's boots through any other means because you need 70 strength to enter the Bando's room at God Wars, and of course I'm 1 strength. There was also some hard clues I got but could not complete. I got one all the way to the last step, and then it gave me this clue that I thought I could complete but I could not, and that was to simply talk to the Fairy Godfather. He doesn't spawn until you start Fairy Tale Part 1. Unfortunately, I can't even start that quest because it requires Nature Spirit, and although I have access to Priest in Peril and Mortania, I cannot kill the gas and Nature Spirit. I still have not found a way around those, with 30 prayer XP being granted and 3 gas being needed to be killed. That would put me at 2 prayer. So if anyone ever finds a way around the XP of the gas, please let me know, because Nature Spirit would be great for quest points, as well as for starting Fairy Tale and getting this clue step out of the way. Who knows, I could get the Dragon Boot Ornament Kit, because eventually I do want Dragon Boots in Higher Slayer. As well, I could get an Amulet of Glory trimmed, which looks better than my normal Amulet of Glory. And lastly, I could maybe even roll a chance at a piece of Third Age that I could technically wield on this account from just simply these hard clues, or elite clues for that matter. I also tried attempting to complete the medium Diary of Karamja area, but unfortunately there was one grand tree step I just couldn't get past, and that was the glider. Even though I took the glider into Karamja and technically crashed it, it did not count for the achievement diary, but there was another area of the achievement diary that somehow did work, which was taking a charter from the shipyard halfway through the grand tree, even though on the quest log it says Grand Tree was required to be completed. I could not complete Grand Tree because it gives attack and magic XP, but I could complete this portion of the achievement diary, although not the whole thing, so this is pretty useless. Lastly, I wanted to take on quest speedrunning. I hated it, but I got it done. I got the quest speedrunning outfit and the teleport. Fun fact, the teleport I believe is a few ticks faster than the normal home teleport animation and all of the others. And this includes the minigame teleports, which I use often on this account because I'm one magic, and I route my account all around the map with minigame teleports on a frequent basis, so I'm actually saving quite a bit of time by getting this teleport. Although I did not yet get that giant clock thing you wield, so I didn't complete the log slot yet, but one day we'll get there and we'll have to wield that disgusting clock. In the meantime though, it's time to go to fight caves, and this is my inventory, and it might look a little bit messed up, but I've done about 10 to 15 hours of research and saw what every wave entailed, and this is what it would require. To a T, actually. I will probably have nothing left by the end of this fight caves, and it's already looking like that as I'm currently there now. So I hope to see you soon. I hope to get this fire cape done soon. Once again, it's one of the most difficult tasks I've ever laid my hands on in this game, and it's honestly the worst thing I've ever done. I would not wish it on my mortal enemy, but it must be done. Hell, maybe one day I'll get over the hatefulness I have towards this fight cave run and do it again and try and get a Jad pet if I really have nothing else better to do. But for now, I hope to see you soon in the next episode of the Defence Saga with a fire cape on my back and the full month-long journey or longer with all the details intact on how I got that and how close it actually was. This next episode is going to be my biggest of any video this year, so I hope to do it well. I hope to do you all well, and I will see you then, hopefully. hope. Thank you all for watching today's video. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. Shout out to Iron Gear again. Shout out to my graphic designer and my animator, The Scold, and to all of you, as well as the Tier 2 Patreon supporters you can see on the screen now. I'll see you all in just a few weeks, hopefully.